It's sort of a wrap-up episode for this sequence of episodes in which I am going to share little bits and bobs, little extra miscellaneous things that didn't quite make it into other episodes for one reason or another. After this episode, I will be taking a short break while I work on some other aspects of the branding and do some research for future episodes. Now, looking back on the episodes, this is the 13th episode, by the way, and it lands on Halloween week, which I love. I love that. I think that's perfectly appropriate. Looking back on the last 13 episodes, there were a few things that I wanted to offer updates on or little extra bits of information on. For example, the Hollywood Ghost Tour episode where we told the story of Peg Entwistle, the tragic figure who jumped off the Hollywood H sign in the early days of the movie business and whose ghost allegedly still haunts that hill. The one movie she made was a thing called 13 Women. It was based on a novel. It was a noirish thriller about murder by astrology. So I mentioned the movie in the other episode, but I didn't really talk about it much. I'd like to talk about it a bit here. It's the story of 13 women who attended a seminary. Essentially, they're sorority sisters, and one of them, woman of mixed descent, she's kind of portrayed as this exotic Southeast Asian character. It's actually never quite clear where she's supposed to be from. There's a lot of exoticizing of Asian culture. There's implication. They use terms like half caste, so there's an implication that perhaps she's Indian. They throw around the word Hindu without any real meaning. And of course, this is a time in the 1930s when the yellow peril was at a fever pitch, the pervasive stereotyping and fear-mongering about Asians. 1932 was right there at the tip of that. You had, of course, Boris Karloff playing Fu Manchu, the evil mastermind supervillain. But here you had the exotic Myrna Loy of Scottish and Welsh descent playing the villainous character of uncertain Asian heritage. Myrna Loy, early in her career, was often played kind of exotic characters because she had slightly exotic looks at the time. Of course, she went on to play Nora Charles in the Thin Man movies. The dialogue sort of indirectly references that she may have been sexually assaulted while she was in school, and that the other sisters, because she wasn't white enough, didn't protect her. And so the film is about her seeking revenge on her sorority sisters. And of course, in doing so, she goes deep into scary, exotic Eastern tradition by collaborating with Swami Yogadachi, played by C. Henry Gordon, to cast astrological readings on each of these women. She actually does away with the Swami and sends out these readings through the mail to each of the women herself and signs them as Swami Yogadachi. Anyway, the movie plays with the idea of the power of suggestion as murder weapon. So you get an astrological reading in the mail and it says you are going to die by your own hand, or someone will die because of something you did, and that idea gets stuck in your head and then it manifests. So it's an interesting idea. I think if it were done today, you could probably do something with this idea of manipulating people using the power of suggestion. It plays it with the subtlety of a caveman club. There's a naive quality that's either offensive or charming, depending on your point of view. I personally found it kind of charming. But it definitely speaks of a time when Asian culture was seen as exotic and even threatening. Peg Entwistle's appearance in the film happens right at the beginning, and there's a reason for that. It's one of the strongest scenes in the movie. And I kind of wish she had stuck with it, because I do think that she would have had a good career ahead of her. She has a very unique presence. She doesn't have that typical starlet look to her. She could have grown into that, I think. I think that with the right material, she could have played the romantic lead, but she had something else, though, that was very unique and sympathetic that came across on the screen. So it makes me sad that she sold herself short like that. I think she would have gone somewhere. Anyway, the movie is available on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. I don't know if it's streaming. I think I may have seen a copy of it either on YouTube or at our Internet Archive. But it's worth a look. It's only 59 minutes because it was so drastically cut from its original version before release. The studio apparently felt it was kind of dour and slow, and it is a bit dour and slow, but at 59 minutes, it's not a huge investment. I've seen a lot worse. And certainly interesting from a historical perspective. I've seen some people claim that it is the earliest precursor of the slasher film. I'm not quite sure I buy that, but it does have a lot in common with the plot structure of slasher films, where you have a small group of characters, each with their own little vignettes, who get picked off one by the killer. Check it out if you're interested. 1932, 13 women, stars Irene Dunne, Myrna Loy, Peg Entwistle. Now, also in that episode, I talked about the Hollywood stars, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And it so happens that I was pleased to see Robert Englund, famous as Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare movies, is being given a Hollywood star, a Walk of Fame star. So I was really happy to see that. I talked about the misspellings that remain on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But I learned a couple more facts after I did that episode, which I did not know about the Hollywood Walk of Fame stars. Number one, it's not free, not even close to free. If you are nominated for a star and approved, you're responsible for paying the fees, the associated fees, which it does cover the ceremony, it covers upkeep, it covers the creation of the star itself. But we're talking $85,000. I don't know what it was back in the day, but currently it's about $85,000. If you're nominated for a Walk of Fame star, you have to come up with $85,000 yourself or people associated with you to get that star. Celebrities who have decided it wasn't worth it to them: Clint Eastwood, Julia Roberts, Prince, Madonna, Oprah Winfrey. And then there were some who intended to go for it, but for whatever reason never got around to scheduling a ceremony. Those include Denzel Washington, George Clooney, Al Pacino, and Bruce Springsteen. Now, Bruce Springsteen actually accepted his star but did not attend the ceremony, which led the Walk of Fame to implement a new rule that the honoree must schedule the event within 5 years. Also, little known fact, or maybe this just seems obvious to everybody but me, but when a star is in need of repair, like it gets broken, cracked, whatever on the ground, it does not just get removed and then repaired and then put back. No, it gets completely destroyed. There's no storage place for broken stars. No Betty Ford clinic for the Hollywood Walk of Fame stars. They are completely destroyed and then recreated on the ground. So when you see these Hollywood Walk of Fame stars, you're not necessarily seeing the same exact one that whoever, Humphrey Bogart or Clark Gable or Ingrid Bergman. So I don't even know if they have stars, but you're not necessarily seeing the original star on the sidewalk there. Moving on. So I was going to do this whole in-depth piece about the history of moral panics and the history of people believing stupid stuff, and going all the way back to the printing press, a bit further back, going back to the rise of literacy in Western culture. But I got stuck on Gilligan's Island. So I couldn't believe this when I heard it. I thought it must be false. Apparently, it is not false. Did you know that a significant portion of the audience for Gilligan's Island back in the 60s believed it was a true story, believed that the castaways were actually stuck on that island and that nobody was helping them? So this is from wearethemighty.com, which is a military news and information site run by veterans, military family members. So a very credible source. One day in 1964, TV producer Sherwood Schwartz received a strange message from the U.S. Coast Guard. He had just launched a new show on CBS about 7 castaways stranded on a desert island, and Americans were demanding that the Coast Guard mount a rescue. Schwartz was mystified by the telegrams. Concerned and delusional viewers were angry that the Coast Guard couldn't spare one ship to send for those people.